In the beginning, there were two deities, one of change and one of preservation. The two lived in a vast primordial sea. He of change turned the water for eons, but the water always found level, searching for peace. She of preservation did not appreciate his thrashing about. She craved a tranquil sea just like the water itself did. One day when thrashing about, he fell down to the deep, and to his surprise found the sea at a bottom. The bottom was able to be changed and moved away like the water, which would always move back to where it was. Upon discovering this, he broke past this boundary in the ground, eager to start his new domain of progress, leaving the other to her sea of stagnation. Digging through the bottom was long and hard, but as he could see the change happening, he kept going faster. The speed of his digging caused his hands to heat up, boiling the water around him into steam. As the digging continued, his hands began to burn. His body became fire, the first fire. As he dug and dug, he left lava and fire behind in this massive cavern that would become his realm. As the god of change, he embraced this change to his form, and from the cold ocean above. Where water dripped down from the ceiling, pillars of rock formed. Land above ground and the ocean also formed, from geysers of lava shooting up from the cavern. The change happening on its own was beautiful to the god, and because of that, he set out to create something that could change things like he could. The fire that he had now become was a good starting point, but without his body, it died. The water he always fought against, on the other hand, was resilient and would not end. By mixing this water with the fire of his own body, the first life was created. This life was a type of fungus, which, while primitive, excited the god very much with its ability to leech energy from the medium it is on, to create change. The god was most impressed by its ability to create more life with slight changes from itself. Knowing that change is able to build on itself through his experience in the cavern, the god decided to let these fungus work on themselves in this way to make more new life, occasionally pushing the life in a direction he found interesting. As another way to let change happen on its own, the god used his own fire, and made a large ball of it to move around the world, bringing light to the ocean above, and allowing the lighting to change throughout the day. As an attempt to balance out the light levels, the goddess put a large rock in the sky to reflect the light of the sun back at the ocean, even when the sun is away. Overground, the goddess of preservation had been enjoying the finally stilling waters of the primordial ocean when she could tell there was a change happening below the ground, even more important than that happening in the sky. Still not wanting to change anything, she lounged on the water, enjoying her peace. She noticed the waters miraculously get clearer. She sees strands of green occasionally float to the top of the water. What she was seeing was the results of the first algae and kelp. Eventually, both above and below ground, animals began to evolve, with fish and squid thriving above water, and the rugged pig thriving below. Just as he intended, life was continuing to evolve without him. The goddess never wanted to make a change, set about preserving these ecosystems that the god had created instead of trying to wipe them out. The one big push on life after its creation that the god imparted on life was for it to develop into a form like him and his partner. Life that was intelligent. Life that could have intentions. This resulted in intelligent life both over and under the ground. The pigmen forming down below, and the villagers forming up above. The pigmen society was often nomadic, but built large works of architecture for industry and for worship. Villagers were originally aquatic, and built large cities and temples. This is when the gods were worshipped for the first times. Both gods appreciated their worshippers, and tried to ensure that those who worshipped them would find success. These first worshippers gave the gods their first names: Lavlan, he of change, and Prismajor, she of preservation. With civilization thriving above and below, the worlds were finally able to meet through the invention of portals by one of the civilizations. Due to Lavlan pushing both the pigmen and the villagers to evolve in a similar direction, the two races were compatible enough to produce offspring, despite not having been closely related. This allowed the first true humans to be born, and brought upon a golden age of civilization. In the much more recent past, there were two civilizations. These civilizations lived in the east and the west. In the east, there were the Vanguard. The Vanguard were born out of a kingdom that was tired of the lack of progress its king was making, and removed him from power. The new leaders became those who helped take him out of power, and they kept making strides towards change to benefit themselves. They became a scientifically oriented group, trying to find out the way that this world works, and how to use this knowledge to make it better for them. They prototyped many inventions that were used forever after, and some even that were lost. elevators to reach their mountaintop homes made of concrete, terraced farms to feed their people, and canals to traverse the arid lands they lived in. In the west was the Arcanum Foundation. The Arcanum Foundation were born out of a coven of wizards that traveled the world looking for ancient knowledge. After such a long time collecting knowledge, they decided to settle down near a ruined village and build a place to store this knowledge. They constructed a vast underground vault chiseled from the mountain through sorcery to contain the vast sum of knowledge they had collected in books and scrolls. Though this knowledge was vast, there was still more to collect, so they sent trained dogs and agents out into the world to collect any knowledge, ancient or new. The conflict was inevitable. Any new discovery made by the Vanguard would be stolen by the Arcanum, and any ancient knowledge the Arcanum was keeping secret was often stolen or bought by Vanguard operatives, only to be revealed to all. The Vanguard also dismissed many supernatural parts of the world in the name of science, which infuriated the Arcanum, who knew better than them due to their long searching years. The war between those who thought power should be kept to those who know how to use it, and those who wanted power to be spread to whoever wanted it came. And it was a bloodbath on both sides. The Arcanum's withers and the Vanguard's bombers, not to mention more rare weapons on each side, were as effective as they were hard to control. The resulting explosions and terror destroyed both great nations, leaving the world uncivilized yet again. The catastrophe did have the upside of spreading both groups' knowledge across the world. As a result of this, the civilizations that formed out of the rubble were more numerous and were more culturally diverse. In this wave of civilizations, all civilizations were capable of both using magic and technology. This gave rise to industrial techniques and magic traditions never seen before, capable of producing virtually anything in the world in large quantities. The people of the South during this era were of many cultures, races, and talents. They formed the Southern Coalition, a group of several city-states of different races and cultures who, despite their differences, needed their trade with each other to survive. The dwarves were the industrialists of the group, taking from the ground all they needed to prosper, including buckets and buckets of oil. The elves were magically gifted. They were able to use the energy of plants to run their cities and automate what was needed. Their wizards were also capable of casting spells of a type not seen today or before. Finally were the ratmen, whose strange rituals and alchemy could make dangerous weapons or domestic disasters. All feared what they could do, most importantly themselves. This was a nation that was capable but unstable. The different cultures needed each other, but did not particularly enjoy each other's company. The Union was held together by a thread. The North was much more unified than the South, both in its culture and capabilities. In the North, the world was a forest of magical energy, a glistening lake at its center. The people of the North turned the forest into a paradise of magic and industry, a place where golems operated factories and magic flowers could transport power. The center of this nation was the great city of First Light, rising from the forest floor all the way into the sky. The city sprawled out in every direction. In this chaotic sprawl lay industry and magic, working in harmony. The center of the city was a massive spire, taller than any structure ever built before or after. It was in this spire they stored their vast resources and knowledge. Their use of magic on such an industrial scale didn't come at a price, however. The overuse of magical energy allowed strange spirits to manifest and affect reality. The spread of magic across the world allowed spirits from the domain of no god to come into the overworld nether. One being from the strange dimension decided to regulate others entering from his realm. The Y Foundation had the goal of containing the spirits that were most dangerous to those of this world, and to try to use their power to further his own goals. There were massive underground facilities to house these spirits, and the technology derived from them. Some of the eldritch things within could have likely destroyed civilization, but another was used to end world hunger during this age of civilization. These three groups came to an end due to the end. The spirits that had been terrorizing the civilization of this age were mostly kept at bay by the Y Foundation's work. This was until a new type of spirit started to appear. The industrial attitude of this age had a terrible effect on people's sleep schedule. Long hours of suffering in factories and little sleep in between allowed a new spirit to cross into the world. These flying terrors wreaked havoc on cities of the age. In the panic, many other spirits were also able to do their damage, turning the great cities to rubble. The worst of the spirits faded away without those to believe in them. But the flying phantoms still remain. The cycle of civilization must always keep turning, and the present is no exception. Many decades after the rampage of the spirits, civilization is reforming once more, with me as one of its leaders. I am the founder of Autoland, a nation made up of those whose ancestors survived the spirits by joining the nomadic piglins in the nether and integrating with their culture. With knowledge of ancient industry from the Bastions and faith in Loveland and Prismager, we will spread across the arid lands and beyond. I am not the only one trying to rebuild civilization, however. In a city known as Spawn, the world's largest trading hub, I have learned of a nation known as Borsakai that has the talent to shape the lands and water around them into beautiful forms and has buildings of elegance seen nowhere else. Through this device found in a Vanguard ruin, I will try to document the rise of Autoland so that its name and accomplishments can be broadcast around the world.